Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is February 23rd, and today's lesson is called No Other Gods. I want you to take a look. We are still in the book of Leviticus, and you're like, aren't we done yet? No, we're not. We can do this. Come on. All right. It was verse 4, and it says, we're going to back up to verse 2 of chapter 20, Leviticus 20. It says, if any of them offer their children as a sacrifice to Molech, they must be put to death. The people of the community must stone them to death. I myself will turn against them and cut them off from the community, because they defiled my sanctuary and brought shame on my holy name by offering their children to Molech. And if the people of the community ignore those who offer their children to Molech and refuse to execute them, I myself will turn against them and their families and will cut them off the community. And this will happen to all those who commit spiritual prostitution by worshiping Molech. And there. Okay, so today we're going to discuss Molech and what's the whole issue and how this applies to us today. And so all this goes back to the Tower of Babel. So you're going to find in different cultures, you're going to have the same idea with different names, because the ideas came at the Tower of Babel. But remember, those people weren't all following the one true God. They were building a tower to God, but it was because of their creation worship. And if you go back and look at Nimrod and what all was going on there. And so these ideas that go from cultures, you'll see, but given different names. So I think we need to set from the beginning the idea that there are no other gods but one. The one true God, the God of the Bible. And we'll talk about that. But so from this, that's why you're going to see the same type of God, same thing going on, but called different names. Now, I'm going to clue in a few why Molech is called Molech by the Israelites, and is called different names in different places, because he's not real. Okay, but this is it. So Moloch, M-O-L-O-C-H, or Molech, I always say Molech, M-O-L-E-C-H, which I know is probably the southern pronunciation, originated with the Phoenicians. So the Phoenicians are the seagoing people who... the Philistines were related to them. The Canaanites were all of those type of Phoenician peoples. And so the Phoenician peoples were the people who, as far as we know, back in history, originated with Molech worship. Now, the word mlk in their language meant sacrifice made to affirm or acquit a vow. What the Israelites did was the Israelites would take the name of a god that was around, and they would insert the vowels from the word, the Hebrew word that meant shame, bosheth. So that's how we get Molech, is they did that to the mlk and created that name because they meant it to be as shame. So like Melech actually in Hebrew is a type of king. But you see, that's why you'll see God's given different names and pronounced and spelled different. I wanted to throw that out. So Astarte is known as Ashtoreth. MLK is known as, I don't know how it's pronounced, is known as Molech. But because of the insert of the Hebrew vowels. There. So Molech, the name, actually means a personified ruler of shameful sacrifice. Ashtoreth is his consort, so his queen. Worship of Ashtoreth, you see Ashtoreth poles, you'll see all of that as we continue through the Old Testament. Ritual prostitution, because she's a fertility goddess. You'll see that happen as well. And worship by the Phoenicians from around 1500 BC to about 300 BC. So that's that. So Israel, as it starts, is going into this land, and they will be surrounded by people who worship these gods. Molech worship specifically included child sacrifice. You'll see it referenced through, unfortunately, some Hebrew kings who will worship Molech as well and will offer their children as sacrifice. It's called passing their children through the fire, which had to do with the statue of Molech. I mean, it's really weird. Like, they make a really big statue, make a hole in its belly, and start a fire. And then, like, it had arms like this, and they would lay their children on that and let them get burned. And as sacrifice. And it was basically your firstborn child. So, now see, all of this is going to make sense to you in a minute. And you'll see that same name. So, if you're, all right, stick with me, people. We got a map going on here. So, if you're in the Canaan area, which is between the Mediterranean and the Jordan River, Canaan, which will become Israel later, and that's the land they're going to inhabit. We're not there yet. Remember, we don't know. We're wandering yet. We're going to be wandering. But we're not there yet. That's where we're headed. But in the northern part of Africa, Molech is also worshipped. He's known as a different name there because of language differences. So his name there is Kronos, which is taken into Carthage and Greece. And Kronos will develop his own mythology, become one of the Titans, and have a son named Zeus. So that same idea is going on there. And you'll notice that Kronos always ate his children because he was a god of sacrifice. So I just wanted you to see that connection throughout cultures with here. So Molech is also sometimes equated to Baal. And you'll see Baal used a lot in the Old Testament. But the word Baal, B-A'. Apostrophe-A-L, is actually used to designate any god or ruler. So you'll see it used as the Baals. Instead of using other gods, we're talking about the Baals. Those are who are not God, who are not the one true God. The Hebrew God, the God of the Bible, is different. Remember, the whole book of Leviticus is about setting apart a people, a specific people, to make them holy. And these laws are showing you're holy, you're different, you're not going to act like all the people surrounding you. You're not going to offer your children for sacrifice. And I've already shown you that because that's where you came from. So, God does not want us to sacrifice our son for him, is what he's saying. So, pause. We're going to rewind for a minute. So, you're going to rewind back to Genesis chapter 22. So, in Genesis 12, God calls Abram to move. He came from Ur, and in Ur, yes, there was worship of the moon goddess, and there's a ziggurat and all these things there, but child sacrifice was not a common thing there. But where he moved, the land of Canaan, it was very common. But that's exactly why, I want you to watch this. This is exactly why God tells him, do not sacrifice, because do not put your hand on your child, Isaac. I'm about to show you I am not like the gods that you are surrounded by. I am not like Molech. I will not allow you to sacrifice your child. I'm going to show you I will sacrifice mine for you. That's how I'm different. So it's all connected. Every bit of the Bible. There's no random information. So when Molech shows up, you'll see that. So, 500 years later, when Joshua is going to lead the Israelites into the nation, God knows they're going, and this is their story, that we don't serve a God who requires us to sacrifice our kids for him. He will provide for himself the sacrifice. And by this point, they've been led through the sacrificial system to see what God requires as a sacrifice, and it is not their children. So this is all a lesson for them. All a lesson. But they will, spoiler, they're going to get hung up, and even kings will have high places. Solomon built high places for Molech. We'll see others. The only thing, major spoiler alert, the only thing that finally keeps Israel from following after Molech is they get taken out of their land and sent into exile, where the Babylonians have a pantheon of gods, but they don't kill their children. That's what leads them finally out of, which is what God tells them. If you don't follow me, I'm going to take you out of the land, and by taking you out of the land, we're going to clean the land out of you. So it's an amazing thing to watch what God does here. God will provide his own son to take our place. Our God is different. And we should be different too. That's the whole point of Leviticus. And that's the whole point of us as Christians. We should be different too. And so the challenge from this lesson for us today is this right here. What God do we follow? I told my students, I asked them what we're discussing witnessing right now. And I said, what is witnessing? And they said, tell them what God means to you. And I told them when they got, this was on a test. They had to write this on a test. And when I got it back and I marked, I said, just so you know, I'm handing you your test back. And when you get that wrong, it's wrong. Because what God are you talking about? Everybody likes God. Yes, I love God. What God? Molech. The gods of this world now. What God do we follow? How are we different from people who follow all these other gods? Our gods have names that don't have capital letters to them now. Small letters. We don't give them real names because then they get too real to us. Money, fame, all sorts of things. So when we say we are the people of God, we need to make sure it's the God of the Bible that we're following, because he's not like any other. And praise his name that he's not. So see you next time on Read Through the Word.